In our last video, I showed you how to make a little shooter game in about 10 minutes. So in this one, we're going to show you how to add some UI elements to that game. So we're going to load the game. We can see this is the original shooter that I made. If you want, you can go load that game and play around with it. It's called Shooter Tutorial. So we're going to start right away by creating some UI elements and some buttons. So I'm going to create a new rectangle and define a class. We're going to call it UI. I'm going to update a few properties here. The main one is that we want to ignore physics, and I also don't want it to be filled because I don't want it to show the color. And we're going to also remove the border. So now that we have our UI element, we're actually going to create another object that is derived from the UI element, and this is going to be our button. So we're going to create a new class, and this is where you'll see where a lot of the object-oriented power in Sharendipity really comes through. So we're going to get rid of this rectangle, and we're going to make this button a UI element, and so this way it's going to inherit from all the properties from the UI element. So now that I made it white, it's a little hard to see, but we'll go grab it, and we're going to give it a button image now. So we're going to go to the community and see if we can find a button. Again, you can always upload your own images for these. And here's our button. And we're going to change the text color to white as well. Oh, and we see the button, we want to update the image properties so that it'll scale correctly. There we go. And this is going to be our score button, so we're going to give it the instance a name, and this will let us reference this particular instance, and it's going to have a starting text to 0. We see that it's a little small, so we're going to go in and change the font. And you need to know the format here, which is a little tricky. You can see how we type that in. There, it's a little bigger. So now we're going to use our original UI element to display some plain text. So drag that over. And we're going to give the instance the text for score. And again, we can see the font isn't quite right, so we're going to change that for the class so it applies to all of them. We should have done that in the first place. And I think I changed the wrong thing, so we'll go back in there and put it in the right property. There we go. So there's our little score display now. So in order to update the score display, we're going to add a property to the world that's going to keep track of the current score. And we're going to add a behavior that says when that property changes, we're going to update the score's text field. And so give this a name. And so in the Actors tab now, you can see the named instances at the top. And these are instances that exist in the world. At the bottom there are the classes that we've defined. So we're going to pull out our score and set that. And now we need to create a behavior that will update the world's score property. So we already have a behavior for when the enemies are killed. So we're just going to go in here and add a value to the world score. So now we'll go test this out, and it should work right away. Shoot a few of these guys, and we can see the score updating right away. And you'll notice that my spaceship flies over the top of our UI elements. So we're going to go in there and we're going to change their layer, which will cause them to display over the top of the spaceship. We'll make sure that's working here too. There we go. So now we're going to create a lives display. We're going to actually give this game an end scenario. So we're going to drag over a button. We're going to give this UI element the lives text, just like we did for score. And we're going to name this button so that we can reference it, again, just like we did for the score. So we're going to go in and create another property on the world. This is going to keep track of the lives. And we're going to give it an initial value of 3. And now we're going to create a behavior that is going to update the lives text when that value is changed. Again, all this is just the same that we did for the score, but this time for the lives property. One difference is that we're going to add another property or another behavior that is going to set the text for our lives button when the application starts. And that's the reason we do that is so that if we change our initial value for lives in the world class, we don't want to have to go into the lives button itself and change that value. So it's always controlled from the same property at the world. So if we rewind here, we'll see that works. And as I mentioned, if we go in and change that value and we rewind, we'll always end up with the correct display. Now we're going to add a new behavior to our spaceship so that when it runs into one of our enemies, we're going to decrement the lives value on the world. So we'll create a contact event here, and when this, which is the spaceship, contacts our enemy, pull out the add function, and we're going to just add -1 to the world's lives property. There we go. And we can go test that out. And we'll see that when I contact one of these enemies, the lives display will decrement up there. Obviously our spaceship doesn't go away, so this doesn't quite make sense. So let's go edit our behavior that we just made. And I'm going to destroy the spaceship and recreate it when we contact an enemy. We're also going to get rid of all the enemies in the world so that you don't inadvertently run into one of the enemies that are being created while we're waiting for the spaceship to be recreated. So we'll go test this all out, and it looks like everything's working. And disappear again. We saw all the enemies are disappearing. The problem is that our lives will still decrement below 0, so we're going to go add a little more logic to handle that case. So we'll pull up our behavior, and we're going to add an if statement here that will let us test for the value of the world's lives property. A little shortcut: if you drag a numeric value into the if statement, it'll create that conditional for you. We also drag another if statement into the bottom of the first if statement. That creates our else clause to get the right conditional logic. And we'll fix that. And the other thing we're going to do here is we're actually going to provide the endgame scenario in Sharendipity. So we have a way to submit high scores to the Sharendipity server, and they'll be recorded. And then there's a built-in UI element that will display the end of your game, and we'll see that here in a little bit. But so we can go and test everything out. And what we really have now is a complete shooter game with recorded high scores. Again, they're all in the Sharendipity server. We have an endgame scenario, and we have a UI element that will display all of the recorded high scores. It looks like we have an inadvertent object there we'll get rid of. But so this is really it. We have more or less a complete game. If you watch the first tutorial, you've spent about 20 minutes now and should be able to go off and create your own games. So hope you'll all try it. We'll see the endgame scenario here in a second, and thanks for watching.